Hello, I'm Sheli Bowman, and I am here with Angela Khat, and who's had an amazing journey. And she's told me a little bit about herself, but I will let her do most of the talking. And you're an amazing entrepreneur. You empower women with their bodies, what they eat, how they work out, and all that. But I know that you came from a background of having been maybe bullied or not having the self-confidence. So can you just go into that and how it drove you to do what you do now?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I was bullied from the first day of reception right through primary school every single day. And obviously, that has a big impact on your self-esteem as a child. So I obviously didn't realize this as it was happening at the time, but I just wanted to be accepted. And I think especially growing up in the 90s, like as a child in the early 90s, the 90s was such an era of like skinny is beautiful and like, how the media portrayed beauty and that sort of thing. And I thought if I was beautiful, I'd be accepted. And I can't change my face, but I could change my body. So I started dieting and working out. And I think it was those insecurities and that effect that it had on my self-confidence that really drove me to want to change myself. And that pushed me into dieting, exercising. And from a very young age, I started dieting when I was 12, and I really didn't need to. And I didn't need to. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was getting all of my information from like Fitness RX magazines and later as it came on the scene, bodybuilding.com and things like that. And I was just doing all the wrong things, and it led me to eating disorder and an exercising disorder, and just a long journey that wasn't the best. So, and it was all just driven by my insecurities and wanting to change myself. So eventually I became a personal trainer. I did love exercising. From that, I developed like a passion for the bodybuilding industry. I loved it. So that drove me to become a personal trainer when I was 18. But my journey's changed a lot since then. And now I try and really help women to not only accept themselves for who they are, because if you're trying to achieve a body goal or a goal to change your looks because you don't like yourself, it's coming from a place of hate rather than a place of loving yourself. And the outcome's never really good. So I try to help women accept themselves, but also work on their health and do things in a way that isn't actually detrimental to their health. So you can always improve yourself and improve your health, but doing it for better reasons and taking a better path than what I did, so they don't make the mistakes that I did.
Right. And you work with female entrepreneurs mostly.
Yeah, mostly. So as my journey's changed, who I've worked with has kind of changed as well. So as I've grown, that's evolved as well. So when I started out as a trainer, I was only 18 and I was working with a lot of young 20s. And then as I became a mum in my mid 20s, I worked with a lot of mums. And then lately it's evolved more to entrepreneurial women. Yeah.
Okay. And the one thing you said is that you're a foodie. And how did that, because you said you had an eating disorder and work out, how did being a foodie and having that go together?
I was like really fighting against myself. Like
Right.
my family, my mum was an amazing cook, and she would cook like the most beautiful dinners. And every week she filled up the biscuit barrel and she baked. And like, I just loved food. And I was known in my family for being like a big eater and for being the one that really enjoyed food. And so then as I was growing up, I really tried to deprive myself of that. So for years, I was like depriving myself, but trying to fight against my love for food as well. So that's where it really developed into like binge eating, because my willpower would only help me for so long before it turned into like, I can't take it anymore. I got to have a bite of that. And then that bite turned into eating until the point that I couldn't actually move my body anymore.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
And then you worked through that. Did you work with like a therapist, or how did you work through that?
I've worked with a lot of coaches and mentors over the years. What actually happened was the path that I've done every diet under the sun, and probably every type of exercise regime you can think of as well. And as I was doing that, I developed some issues with my health as well. So I developed gut health issues and then skin issues, like really bad skin issues. So I worked with some pretty amazing people to help me sort out my gut health. I can see now, looking back, that they were all kind of self-inflicted problems that I developed with my health from my ways of eating and my training that was incorrect from such a young age. But yeah, so I worked with many different people that did help me along the way, but it was probably in my mid-20s, after I had competed, and my daughter was probably 4 or 5, I actually just got to the point where I said to myself, like, I'm just so done with this. So I did a competition, a fitness model competition. I got very, very lean for it. And then afterwards, like, was just binge eating really badly. I gained a little bit of weight, but I felt terrible in myself, because when you come off stage from being, 12, 13% body fat, and then you gain even the smallest amount, you feel gross. Like, I just didn't like the way I felt, because I loved being so lean, right? And then the work to try and keep yourself there, which is an unhealthy state to be in, is unbelievable. So I was never going to maintain that. And I got to a point where I just went, you know what? I just want to be a normal person. I want to not worry about every little thing that I eat. And I want to just enjoy the time with my family. And I just want to stop, like, depriving myself all the time. And I just gave everything up cold turkey. I stopped training. I stopped dieting, and I just went, I'm just going to eat what I want to eat and not worry about it anymore. And luckily I had some really great habits as well. Like, I was from previously having to work on my gut health and restore some issues there, I had learned some really good habits too. So most of the food that I ate was organic. I shopped at the local farmers market. I had really good nutritional habits in place. I just had a bad mentality towards my food and my body. So when I started, basically, if you want to call it intuitive eating, I didn't term it as that at that time. I had some good habits that I carried with me. Like, I really loved good, nutritious food, and I ate them, but I started to enjoy foods that I wasn't allowing myself to have for years. And when I started to let myself eat those foods, all of a sudden, eventually the binging stopped, because my mentality changed along the way as well. So I had probably only 3 months off training. There was about 3 months that went by that I didn't train. And then eventually I went, I miss training. I want to train. But instead of like grilling myself with cardio, doing an hour every morning and then going to the gym in the evening and doing weights, I was just lifting weights 3 times a week because I enjoyed it. And I wasn't doing all that cardio. I was walking my dog every now and then. It was more relaxed. And along that way, I eventually found more balance. And if you want to call it restored my metabolism, I did. So yeah, I eventually changed my mindset, my mentality, did some work to change about 10 years, even longer, of imbalance with my training and my eating.
Right.
Yeah.
Incredible journey that you got that far, because so many people don't, they just continue on.
Yes, I know.
And one thing that you said was that most women don't eat enough and they work out so much. How do those two work together?
I think it comes down to, like, if you're in the fitness space or the dieting space on social media, and that all you hear all the time is calories in versus calories out. Like, if you want to be lean, it's calories in versus calories out, which is true, but it's missing a whole big piece of the puzzle there. That's only a small piece of the puzzle. So as women, when we hear constantly, if you want to be lean, you have to eat less and move more, then we start to, because most women want to change their body in one way or another. Most women are they're always wanting to lose a couple kilos or so, like, that I speak to anyway. So most people on a daily basis try to not eat a lot, like most women, is what I find with the women that I speak to. So they'll say things to me like, oh, I had a really good day today. I just had a salad and a smoothie. Or I had a really bad day. I had, I don't know, some bread, or, so they equate, not eating much with being good. And so over time, they're just not really eating very much. And at the same time, they're exercising a lot. And the problem is that our metabolism adapts. It adapts to what you're bringing in. So if you're not bringing in much energy and you're exerting yourself a lot, eventually your metabolic rate will drop to try and to keep that balance, because your body doesn't want you to be losing weight all the time. So you're slowing down your metabolism. So yeah, does that make sense?
So how would people say that they're not eating enough, they're working out and all that, but then obviously if they had that low metabolism, how would they correct it to up their metabolism? You'd have to like slowly increase what you're eating, or how would you do that?
Yeah. So with my clients, we strategically slowly increase the amounts of food that they're having. But the number one thing that will increase your metabolic rate is gaining muscle mass. So your muscle mass is the most metabolic tissue that you have. And the more muscle you have, the higher metabolism is. So in order to increase your muscle mass, you've got to actually eat in a little bit of a surplus. So in a calorie surplus, so you've got to bring in more food. So for women that come to me that are wanting to lose weight, but maybe they've been under eating for a long time or yo-yo dieting, often we have a period of time where we have them just eating at their maintenance, and we slowly try to increase their maintenance while lifting weights and try to get a little bit more muscle mass on them and increase that metabolic rate as well before they enter a diet phase.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
basically what I did when I was in my mid-20s, and I stopped all my dieting, and I was doing it intuitively. Like, I didn't realize what I was doing at that time, where I was actually bringing in enough energy for my body to sustain itself and to heal and repair and nourish myself. And then I started lifting and I started gaining more muscle mass, and eventually my metabolism increased, and I've been able to really maintain my body weight a lot easier since then, rather than struggling. Yeah.
And you've got 2 daughters.
Yes.
Your path, how does it affect how you talk to them about their own bodies and how they self-talk? And, how do you bring what you've learned into being, working with entrepreneurs, but also with your own children?
Yeah. So it's been interesting. My oldest daughter is 12, and she is nothing like I was. And I'm thankful for that. So nothing like I was at 12. She is just she doesn't have any insecurities about her body at all. And she's just happy and healthy. And she eats a good balance of nutritious food. And she also enjoys foods that aren't healthy without any of that guilt surrounded by it. What I spoke to her about is healthy eating as she's grown up. So like, we shopped at the markets, and I'd take her with me and we'd get all seasonal produce. So I talked to her about how the produce is seasonal, and we would talk about cooking food from scratch and not eating processed foods and things like that. Sorry, not eating them, but not having them as frequently. But we never really spoke about our bodies. So I don't really make comments about her body or my body in front of her. Yeah, it's just been a different experience to what I had, where everything was so focused on beauty and your self-esteem being attached to beauty and your body image. And so far, it's been really good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, amazing. I'm sure she's getting so much from you. In the you said when we first started out, like in the 80s or whatever, that it was so body focused, but I think now is more focused because you've got social media, and it might have been out there, but it wasn't so much in your face, because you've always got this little thing here with you, and there's maybe a bit more of people, because it's so much in our face, that people are judging their own insides by other people's outsides. So it's like,
That's true.
oh, this person looks so perfect and they have this perfect life and they're making loads of money and they're, they're traveling, they're doing this and that. Whereas, it's might be like, oh, I've got this extra like, kilo that I want to get rid of, or, but that person looks perfect. There can be
Yeah.
comparison. And I think with social media, it's really in our face all the times because
Yeah.
of these devices.
You're probably right. It's probably more that I'm not as focused on it, so
Yeah.
I didn't realize. But I think you're right. What I see in the fitness industry is that um, having there's more acceptance of more different body types. Whereas when I was growing up and I was going through that, it really felt like, all the role models were supermodels. They were all tall, stick, thin, even blonde, white, tall, and skinny. All the role models that were portrayed as being beautiful in that time is what I noticed. Whereas now there is more diversity in bodies, like we accept that some people are shorter, some people are curvier, some people are tall and lanky, and there's more diversity. But I think you are correct. It's in our face all the time. And we're not just comparing our bodies, we're also comparing our lifestyles and our houses. And yeah, I think that that's correct.
Yeah. And one thing with the, like, I guess the whole fitness industry is that, do you think there's a lot of pressure on people to look like people that have, maybe not having a healthy lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you see that as like,
Oh, sorry.
I mean, because when I was young, it was when they first started, you know, knowing about eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just coming out. But do you think that that's more of a problem? I mean, one thing that I knew when I worked in China was that there was so many, um, like, how can I say, nouveau riche. Like now they're suddenly starting to have a lot of money and go out to dinner, and I would go in the bathroom and there would literally be like row stalls after stalls of women just, obviously getting rid of food.
Yeah,
Do you think
right.
that's like, um, more, people know about it more, it's happening more, or do you think it's happening less, or what do you think about?
I think I'm not sure if it's happening more or less. I think it's really, really common. I think there's more help and support for people now than what there was, 15, 20 years ago. But I think there's different types of disordered eating coming to the surface now as well. Whereas before it was like more like even binge eating probably wasn't as recognized back when I was younger. It was more anorexic. You don't have an eating disorder unless you're anorexic or bulimic, sort of back then. Whereas now we realize like that binge cycle really is disordered eating, and exercising as well. Like I was exercising 2 to 3 hours a day. That's disordered. Unless you're an athlete, like you don't need to be training that much. So yeah, I think there is more help and more recognition, but I'm not sure if it is more prevalent or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you mentioned just again was the working out disorder, and I don't think many people talk about that, because
No.
when I was reading your things, I was like, oh, a working out disorder. I hadn't really thought that working out could be a disorder, but I guess,
Yeah.
when I was growing up, my dad was doing marathons, and he
Mhm.
would get super grumpy if he didn't get his run in, and it was
Yeah.
just like this thing, like, oh, I have to kind of,
Yeah.
and
I think like if you're an athlete and there's a purpose to it, like a lot of athletes, that's their job. They do that as their job. And that's different to someone who is, if your purpose for working out is to change your body and not to be better at the sport or to be better at the exercise that you're doing, and it's just to change your body, and you feel absolutely terrible and rotten about yourself if you missed a workout, or there's no way you'd possibly let that happen, it's interfering with your mental health, then that to me is disordered. And that was me for sure. I was up at like before school running for an hour, and then going to school and coming home and going to the gym after school and doing 2 classes back to back and then going home. And eating an apple at lunch and then binging when I got back because I was absolutely starving. So it was part of like the food and the exercise, and the mental state was definitely a disorder. And I think a lot of women experience that. So my story is so common for many, many women that I speak to in one way or another. They might not have all of it, but even just the thoughts towards their body and the way that they approach food because of those beliefs that they have.
Right. Yeah. So you said that you're a massive advocate for finding freedom through working for yourself.
Yeah.
You just go into a little bit of that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I started my own business when I was 18 as a personal trainer. I'm 35 now. So I've worked for myself, and, it hasn't always been very lucrative, but I've never been able to go back to working for someone else. I just love the freedom that it brings for myself to be able to schedule for myself, to be able to do things on my own terms. And then when it is being lucrative, that's even better. So I speak to women all the time, like my clients, who feel stuck in their 9 to 5, and they're trying to raise a family, look after their kids, look after their husband and their relationship, get all of their, we've got all these little chores that we have to each get done, plus work, plus exercise, plus health, and it's just huge. And I'm always like, what are you good at? What are your skills? Like, what can we get you doing? Like, as a, for yourself, build your own freedom and wealth. And that's really what got me wanting to work with entrepreneurial women, is that I know that, your health comes first. If your health is suffering, usually everything else will as well. So if you don't have energy, if you're not feeling well, if you don't feel good about yourself physically either, then that has a really big effect on. So if you're not feeling good about yourself physically, the way that you look, and you don't have confidence in yourself, then that's going to have an impact on your mindset and your productivity as well. So I think that work on your health is like a foundation. And what I've actually seen when women put their health first and they start doing things for themselves, and they start exercising and taking care of their body, they actually do better in their business as well, and they do better in their relationships, and they're better mums, and like everything starts to flow because they put themselves first and they feel great. So it's like, fill your cup and then fill the other cups.
Right. Yeah. One thing you said was not conforming to society norms, and that's been your journey. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I can't remember what the context was.
So you've gone, it's just that you've pushed your passion towards working with female entrepreneurs, but you started that by saying not conforming to society norms. And so I guess it would just be like having your own business.
Yeah. Feeling, I think I was, when I was talking to you about that, I was on the thought path of, like I didn't do great in school, and I didn't go to university straight away or anything like that. And it was more that I went and started my own business really young, and I didn't want to have to just fit into like what society pushes as, you finish your school, you go get a 9 to 5, do you know what I mean? Like there's like an order. And I just really wanted to do things my own way. So, and I'm like that in a lot of areas of my life, really. So
right. Yeah. Do you think COVID has moved a lot more people into this space as well? Because like so many people, they were doing the 9 to 5, and then suddenly they get to work from home, and they're like, actually, this is pretty cool, and actually I could do my own thing. So are you finding more and more of your clients are, actually getting out of that space and moving into entrepreneurship?
Yes, totally. And even the ones that, like, a lot of them haven't left their jobs, but they've got side hustles, or they're working from home a little bit more, and they're doing a couple of days at the office and a couple of days at home, and they're trying to build a business on the side as well. So yeah, I've seen a big shift as well.
Right. And you're in Australia. Were you affected a lot by, like, during COVID, the lockdowns and all that, or do you do a lot of things online?
So yes, I personally was very affected. We, throughout the different states, they had different levels of lockdown. Melbourne was really, really bad. They were just locked down forever. Adelaide wasn't so bad, but timing for me was not great because we were selling our house, and that's a big long story, but the changes in the markets, and yeah, it had a big impact. I was working in a gym at that time as well. I do have online clients too, so I was fortunate for that. But yeah, my in-person training suffered a lot, so it had a really big impact on that. And that also definitely pushed me to build the online space too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, I remember I asked you any anecdotes and you didn't get to that. Do you have
Yeah.
anything that has more unusual that you've done or experienced that's just, it would be interesting?
I don't know. I find it hard talking about myself. Hey, like I'm like, what have I done that's out of the ordinary? I feel like everything's pretty, you know.
I mean, everything that you've talked about is quite extraordinary. So that's,
Yeah, I think my whole life has kind of revolved around that from so young. Like, I'm the youngest in my family. So I've got 5 older brothers and sisters, and from being the youngest, and then, you know, like, yeah, just that journey from then, it's all kind of led to now, and I'm still in the same industry, and I've been researching and perfecting what I'm doing for so many years. It's kind of all ended up where I am, but not a lot of other pathways in between, if that makes sense.
no.
Yeah.
And, yeah, anything else that you'd like to add? I mean, everything that you've talked about has been quite amazing, and the fact that you're working with people and empowering them in this area that's so important. I mean, I've got bronchitis right now, so I know health is like the number one thing, because when that goes down, it's like everything goes. But yeah, so anything else that you'd like to add about the whole area, or anything
Um,
else?
I think really like my mission is kind of to help change the beliefs in the fitness and health industry. We have, I think, like so many messages that are quite detrimental to women and their beliefs around food, and like, just for instance, the messaging that we're getting about body transformation is that it happens really quickly. You know, like, we see like people doing 6-week challenges and posting, I lost 10 kilos in 6 weeks, and you're seeing this kind of messaging continuously, and you think that it doesn't have an effect, but it does. It makes us create this belief and notion that things should happen really fast, and that's actually not true at all. Body transformation takes a true body transformation where you're actually becoming healthier and changing your body for a positive actually takes sometimes years, and we're putting it down to like 6 or 12-week challenges and things like that. So my mission is really trying to change the belief systems for women around food, training, nutrition, their body and health, because yeah, I think there's a lot of messaging out there that is not really helping. So yeah, but that's basically.
And one thing that you'd started with was that you'd done a lot of your own research and gotten the
Yeah.
messaging online. So do you think that that's coming, articles about people that, I mean, articles from people that are maybe not the experts, that are just, publishing in bodybuilding.com or, wherever. Do you think that that's leading to some of this?
Yeah, totally. I think the main thing that leads to the problem is the coaching space is the fitness coaching space is what's the word? Competitive, right? There's a lot of coaches and they're all competing for more clients. And so they're not giving you the whole story when they're marketing. So you just see like these amazing results, but you don't see the big stories behind it, and you don't see all those details behind it. So, like when you've got a bodybuilder putting out something like, this is what I eat in a day, right? This is what I eat in a day, eat what I eat to achieve your body transformation. And she's single, doesn't have children, early 20s, bodybuilding, lifts in the gym 5 times a week, and you're a mid-30s, 40s mother of 3 working a 9 to 5, you're sleep deprived, you're looking after a household, and you expect to follow what she's doing and get the same results, that's never going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Because her body is not as stressed maybe as yours, and not you, but just in general people. So does that make sense? So it's the
Yeah.
messaging that's out there, I think needs to change. And it's about educating and empowering women to kind of change their beliefs so that they can change their lives. Yeah.
Right. I mean, with anything, it's so important to have a coach such as yourself, and someone who would have like an individualized plan of, what's best for them. Like you said, they're not 20 anymore. They might have this, their whole situation needs to be taken into account. And it's also, you know, so many, like, I can't have gluten, I'm allergic to mushrooms. Everyone now has like all their little health, things that need to be taken into account. So you can't just say these are the macros you're supposed to have, and then
Yeah.
you'll achieve the same results.
Mhm.
I used to actually have a nutrition store where we were selling, like the proteins and the things. So I know a bit about
Yeah.
the fitness, and we had all the supplements and the sports nutrition and everything, but we tried to keep a lot of organic foods and things there as well. But a lot of people would come in and they would be asking the people that worked in the store, and they would literally take these advice, and we would employ like people's with a master's in nutrition to be at the store, but most nutrition stores do not, and people place their trust in the people that they go in. They'll say, okay, there's all these vegan proteins, which one's the best? Well, it's like, okay, the pea one's going to make you fart, and there's all this stuff, and it might not be taken into consideration. This one's going to make your tummy hurt. If you have strong digestion, you can handle this. Or there's all this misinformation, and people go into a nutrition store and just go like, okay, what do I need to bulk up, or what do I need to get thin, and I know I did that a long time ago when I would just go into the stores and just, what do I need for this and that? And I know those people didn't know, they knew the products, but maybe not in everything about me. So that's why
right.
having a personal trainer or a coach that you're working with is so important when you go into that kind of situation, and not just go, okay, I'm going to learn from bodybuilding.com and save some money and just go in and ask the guy at the nutrition store. And it's like, no,
Yeah, totally. That's where my journey evolved as well, because that's what I started off doing. Like, I had a lot of misinformation. Like, I was just reading those fitness magazines when I started, and then it evolved to bodybuilding.com. And then it was trainers that I was working with who were quite inexperienced, just as I was. Because I would say in the first 5 years that I was a personal trainer, I knew absolutely nothing. So I really had no idea what I was doing. I was very fortunate that I worked at Fitness First, and they had the gym that I was working at. We would do 18 hours of in-house training every month to help us grow our knowledge. So that was really, really fortunate. And then from there, I started working with other mentors that helped me along the way to actually really get educated and understand what I was doing and why I was doing it, and build my knowledge that way. And also just working with my clients and watching, like, not just my own experience of my body and what I've done for my body, but also my clients' experiences and seeing how they change and respond to different things that they're doing as well. So there's all of that, that data that you get from just experience of working with people, of numerous different people. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Any last takeaway that you want to, a golden nugget you want to drop, or just, I think everything that you've put out there, the main thing that I would take away is that, not to do the how can you say, the pseudoscience of just like, learning from online and doing it yourself, that you actually need to work with coaches and people that know what they're doing. And it's not just the 20 something PT at the gym. You need to actually work with people who know about nutrition and macros, and, what is going on with you in your personal life.
Yeah. And I think like the main thing I'd say is if you are someone who is struggling with your weight and you have been dieting for a long period of time and exercising for a long period of time, then and you're not getting where you want to go, then the best thing to do is probably really track what you're eating and consuming and your weight for 2 to 3 weeks, and have a good look at what you're actually having, and then getting someone with some expertise in nutrition and exercise to take a look at that, along with the data of your weight, your measurements as well, and see where you can make changes from there, rather than just to continue that same cycle of restricting your food and exercising and hoping to get somewhere if you're not actually seeing the changes you want. So yeah.
You continue to do the same thing, you get the same results.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, lovely to meet you and to get to know you a little bit. So thanks. And I'll be posting this in the podcast and the YouTube channel and in the Facebook group. So
All right, no worries. Thank you. It was nice to be here.